Mics are live, and there we are on screen. So welcome aboard, everybody. Sorry about the delay there. Tech difficulties. They happen, and scheduling difficulties too. It's tough with all the time zones across the country. I'm talking to artists from coast to coast, so sometimes that gets a little bit confusing. But this is called Fly in Formation. It's a interview spin-off from my mix show that I do every week. The mix show is called After the Smoke is Clear. I do that with my homie DJ Dice. And if you enjoy listening to indie hip hop and Canadian hip hop, that's what we're doing over there. We play an hour worth of Canadian hip hop every week. And a couple years into doing that, I think we're on season 6 for After the Smoke is Clear right now. And on season 3, I decided, like, I want to dig deeper into every different individual scene and try to actually talk to some of these artists, because one way that I find new artists to play is when artists recommend them to me, or when artists do features with other artists. So, I started reaching out to different artists across the country and kind of tapping in with each individual scene. And, it's been a ride. We're on episode 99 right now. Tonight with me, I've got Hardbody Dreams, MC based out of Vancouver. Got a new project called Supreme Order. That's out right now. I think it came out the end of February, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah. So welcome aboard. It's good to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to talk.
Yeah, appreciate you, B.
Thanks, dude. I guess a good place to start is always just can you kind of give us an elevator pitch of what your newest album was like, Supreme Order? What people can expect from it if they take a listen to that.
Yeah, give me a second. I want to grab something and show everybody something.
Yeah, show and tell for sure.
Yeah, I gotta bring out some of the merch, right?
Hell
and
yeah.
So we got, our brand is One Order, right? You can see that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, there we go. Now it's right in frame. Yeah.
There you go. Right. And we also have a radio show on CJSF 90.1 FM and One Order Radio 6 o'clock Blitz, playing the hottest hits from the old school to the new school, everything in between. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the Supreme Order, man, like,
so that's the whole crew then, or
yeah,
no?
So One Order is a collective of MCs. It's a collective of MCs. I would say about maybe like 4 or 5. You know what I mean? Off and on. People got lives, so you know how it be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. People have to check out of the scene sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. But it's a collective of MCs, and me and my brother Guilty Black. Shout out to my man Guilty Black. He like the godfather of the squad. He's the old head, the triple OG. And we came up with the name a few years back. You know what I'm saying? A few years back. And when we were coming up with the name, it was the name had to be something that represented unity, hence the one, right? And the order aspect of it. And one is the foundation, right? I mean, in a lot of like especially like in Hermetic teachings, right?
Yeah.
The Hermetic teachings, the universe is mental, you know what I'm saying? And all is one, right? Everything is unified. Everything is collectively connected on an energetical level, right? And, the order aspect of is, the opposite of order is chaos. You see what I'm saying? Another way to express that supreme wisdom is that when you look at the definition of peace, right? When we greet in peace in our culture, peace is the absence of chaos and confusion, right? So when there's no chaos and confusion, what do you have? You have order. You know what I'm saying? Everything everything in the universe has its proper order, right? And when things are orderly, right, um, things flow smoother. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, less
But
pain
it,
and suffering for everybody, right? If everything's in order.
true indeed,
Yeah,
right? You know, order represents organization. You know what I mean? To be organized, right? Um, to move as a unit, you know, as a team. And as we were discussing earlier about, you know, how people sleep on Canadian hip hop, I
sure.
think it's because I'm sure in every province, right, in every territory, everybody's got their crews. Um, However, how many crews are, like you said, knowing of the next man here
Yeah,
in Victory Law now, Vancouver? How many mans is knowing about Master True Life in Montreal? How many mans know about, you know, Brothers in Truth Cipher in Toronto,
yeah,
and Nova Scotia, and you know what I mean? Like, how many people are actually unifying, you know, as a squad? And so that is really the foundation of this movement, is to unify dope MCs, and have a conglomerate, really. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Kind of like the righteous La Costa Nostra. You know what I mean? It's
Sure,
like
man.
a,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's like
family
a,
family
yeah.
affair, right? Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Right. So
dude. That's the
go
same
ahead.
thing with Fly in Formation, right? Like I named the show Fly in Formation because it's Canadian based, so you think of those geese and how they take turns flying in the lead so that it makes it aerodynamic for the rest of them. Um, and they rotate out. There's no one leader that stays up there the whole time. They rotate into that position. So
No doubt.
yeah, that's the science behind Fly in Formation or whatever is it. And then of course it's information. So couple of word
Yes.
plays in there. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. I
yeah,
like that. I
hell
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, man. But it's all about trying to build unity. Speaking of Toronto, I wanted to ask you if you are familiar with an artist named Lord Fury. You
Lord
heard
Siri.
his
Yep.
project? Yeah,
Yep.
he just dropped one called Supreme Era, which sounds a lot similar to Supreme Order or whatever. I've had to separate them in my mind very carefully so that I don't misname your project with his. But he's spitting a lot of the same type of kind of knowledge and historical facts that a lot of people are sleeping on, I think. And to me that's important. People should be saying something other than just how cool they are in a rap song. You can do that every once in a while, but there's more to it. Communication goes a lot deeper than just uh trying to show people our egos, I guess. But yeah, man, I hear a lot of that stuff in your bars too. I guess I read in your bio it talks about knowledge of self, that your artistry came from knowledge of self. Can you build off of that and talk a little bit about uh, what led you to pick up the pen, pick up the microphone?
Yeah. So, um, I have heard of Lord Fury.
Yeah,
And he's close with one of the gods that I know by the name of Born King Mathematics. Um, and I I don't know if he's actually in the nation. But I know that he's around. I know that he's around the gods, right?
right.
Um, and so the Supreme Order album was formulated while I was getting knowledge of self. Uh, and I got knowledge of self through the 5% Nation, January 14th, 2023. So at that time, some of those things that I was saying wasn't right and exact, because when I came into the knowledge, um, A, we don't take things on face value, and B, we make sure that everything is right and exact, going back to the order, right?
Yeah,
So um some of the words that I used were based off of other sciences that I had come across in my past, and prior to knowledge itself. I'll call like my when I was in the state of being dumb, deaf, and blind in a mental grave, right?
Sure.
Um, so that album is more like the stepping stone to what you are going to start hearing as of you know as of after that album, right?
Right.
That album was for me to showcase the brothers that I spit with. And if you really listen to it, it's kind of more like the two old heads on there, Q1 and Guilty Black. They have more of a comedic hotep type stance. You see what I'm saying? Um, but still acknowledge the black man as the true and living God. Um,
So they're not
and
actually 5%
they're not five
Nation of
percenters.
Gods and Earths. Okay, yeah.
They're not. They're not a lost 5%. And so the knowledge of self, right? Obviously, like you say, you listen to Wu Tang. There's
I
been
have a
many.
outsider understanding, right? I mean, yeah,
Yeah, of
I've
course.
studied Wu Tang, like read Wu Tang books, and done a lot of trying to decipher lyrics with Wu, and of course other hip hop and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a limited knowledge for
For
sure.
sure, for sure. And this is the thing is that I was when I was in that state of being dumb, deaf, and blind, 85er. Um, I was seeking this knowledge, right? I was seeking, right?
Yeah,
Um, and so when I initially thought I could just get supreme mathematics off the internet, I ordered a book that was because I had heard some brothers talking about 120, didn't know what that really was, right? I didn't know what that was, just bottom line, not even really. I didn't know what that was. So,
the
but when I
120
had,
lessons, right? That's
yeah,
yeah, okay,
one
yeah,
120 lessons. So, um, I got a book, but it was the Supreme Wisdom book. And for the listener, the Supreme Wisdom book, or known as the Problem book, is a part of the Nation of Islam, right?
okay.
And so I was going through that book, and because I had saw some gods on the internet, capping supreme mathematics and capping the lessons. I thought I was doing it right. But then I was following one of the gods named Minister Freedom Allah, peace to the God. He had a podcast called the 5% Connection, and I sent the email to them because I wanted to get in touch with actual guys. And then, fast forward like a month after, he got back to me, and with he connected me with a brother in Seattle, aka Morocco, and my educator, which his name was Wise Prince Allah. And my Quran continues to be written from that day on. And so, but going into the diving deeper into the question of like, when did I start rhyming? um I've been rhyming since I was knowledge understanding, which is 1 and 3, so 13 years old,
13,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know
I have a limited knowledge of supreme mathematics, like I said, from Wu Tang books or whatever, right? But
yeah,
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 knowledge,
yeah.
wisdom, understanding, culture. Uh, 7 is God. Five, what is it?
Ha!
9 is destruction. I know a few of them. Yeah,
No, no, nine's not destruction. But yeah, you gonna learn as I express the wisdom, right? And I make it born to you today, right? And
here for it, man. Yeah,
yeah, so um yeah, you know, I started freestyling. Like I was doing more freestyles. I was more of a freestyle guy. And before I even read a song, and I did a lot of battles, right? Like I go to house parties and just tear dudes up, right? Like um that's kind of like that is my foundation really is battling
yeah.
and learning to really spit off the dome. And you know, my cousin Brown Brown, um, he would beatbox, and you know, so we would just blaze, you know, we would twist up the equality and smoke and just and just be in the mode, you know what I mean? And just everywhere you go, right? And that's the thing about, you know, this culture. It's a way of life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Niggas just, you know, go on YouTube and watch you know, French Montana and became a rapper, or watch, you know, shorties who watch Ice Spice and they think that that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's like we really live this culture, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I just started to develop, and then you know, I did my first song with this crew that was called East Infection, not yeast infection, but East
East.
Infection.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Yeah,
Were
you
they
know,
based in Vancouver? That's a weird
yeah,
place to
yeah,
have
East
East
Side,
in
East
it.
Side,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
East
East
Side,
Van.
East
Yeah.
Side, yeah, 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 with my with a brother that was T Loke, T Locus on, my man A Boogie, um, there was Prophecy, Celos, and there was a few other ones, Young Carnegie, Young CRIP to him. And so yeah, man. And then, you know, and then we know we I did songs with like Heat Wave, and um yeah, I did songs with like Heat Wave. At that time they went by Block Stars.
Okay.
Um and you know, they did their thing. I mean, have you heard of Trey Nice?
Name sounds familiar, but
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
can't
yeah,
call it,
yeah,
man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So um and so I started to, you know, formulate uh myself then. You know, I went by a different name back then. And you know, at that time, you know, I often never really pondered this before, but you know, when you get knowledge yourself, you know, you honorably retire your honorable name, you know, and you choose a righteous name through supreme mathematics and alphabet. And so my righteous name is Supreme Freedom Allah. Um, and you know, a name by definition is a title, right? And a title is something that you hold, right? And
Yeah.
a title is something that you live. You know what I mean? So often I found that the names that I had in my life, because I also spend a lot of my culture was in the street.
Yeah.
And so I had, you know, many different aliases, right? But I often lived out those names, right? And so my first, you know, rap name was it was a little bit more on the grimier side. And you know, things happened in my life that, you know, I lived out, right? And
Whereas,
so go ahead.
sorry to interject. Are you familiar with KRS-One's Gospel of Hip Hop? You ever read any of that, or
I read it.
studied any of that?
No.
Okay. He talks similar about be careful what name you choose to represent yourself, because word manifests, and sometimes you can end up making the wrong path for yourself. It actually had me questioning whether I should still go by Doobyis or not when I read that book. It's almost
Yeah.
been 15, 20 years ago now, but yeah, man, I figured the branding was already there, so I might as well just keep running with it. But um, in retrospect, it's not the most positive name that a guy could have chosen for himself, I suppose.
So what's the definition of dubious?
So dubious is like questionable or undecided. It depends what context you're using it in. Like
Ah,
yeah. So then I just switched up the spell and made it a bit of a weed reference. But
yeah.
yeah, I find that a lot of things in life, everybody likes to look at kind of black and white, this or that, or and I like to try to stay undecided about things. Hear a lot of different perspectives, and continue to um always be building a decision, right? Like my decision on any topic might change day to day. um I mean, maybe not any topic, but a lot of topics might change day to day. So yeah, in a strange way, I guess maybe that was a path that I made for myself. I don't know if I was that undecided back then, but I've embraced that type of mentality to just be slow to decide on things. Slow to pick a side on most issues. A lot of issues, anyways. Some issues it's pretty clear cut, and I do choose a side. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, that's definitely that's peace, because that's really what, that's what we call doing the knowledge, right? And you know knowledge is to examine, right? Pardon self. um Knowledge is to examine, knowledge is to thoroughly investigate, knowledge is to know.
yeah.
I mean, knowledge is the root of knowledge is the foundation of everything in existence. And knowledge lies within inside the mind. Knowledge is to look, listen, observe, and respect. So if you looking with your physical eye, right, you learning with your mental eye. You know what I'm saying? You also observing within that, using your sights, sounds, smells, touch, taste, right? Um, and respecting what it is that you're dealing with. And so it's good that you don't just jump into things, because I've always been the opposite. I was the opposite before. And what we call that in the nation is doing the wisdom before the knowledge, because
Okay, yeah,
wisdom doesn't come before knowledge. Knowledge has to come before the wisdom, because
right,
the knowledge is what you know, and the wisdom is the expression of what you know. The
right.
wisdom is the application of what you know.
Well, and
The
then
wisdom is to be wise, and to be wise is to show good judgment or character, right? um
and you
to
gain
be
understanding by living it. Am I correct in that? That's at least what the gospel of hip hop taught me.
well, you gain understand you gonna gain understanding regardless, right? Because if you know what you're doing and you're manifesting it through your wisdom, then yes, you're gonna have a clear mental picture, which understanding is of what is it is, right? And then you living it out, because that's your culture, right? And that's
Sure.
the fourth supreme mathematic, is
Yeah.
that becomes the way of life when you got things in order, right? When you're dealing with that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then it becomes a way of your life. But yes, independently, each mathematic goes through its own process of knowledge to born, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I know that, um, for example, like, just keep it simple, because it's as simple as, you want to always keep it simple to teach a baby. It's
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to put on a tea kettle, right? I know that the element's going to come on, it's going to be hot. So I'm gonna be aware of that, because knowledge is what? It's also awareness. So I'm gonna be aware of that. Now, because a l- I've learned the hard way and burnt my hand. I've also been able to learn from that mistake, and so that becomes my wisdom. You see what I'm saying? And
Mm,
now I got a clear mental picture. Okay, well, I need to make sure that the tea kettle is on a mantle that it covers most of it. You know what I'm saying? Because you obviously have big burners and smaller burners, right? And so you also know how to turn down the heat, right? That's very simple. That's something you could teach to a baby, right?
yeah.
So that's the
But
whole
can be
aspect.
applied to situations that are a lot more complex than that. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And you want to keep it simple, because if you ain't keeping it simple, then you probably don't know what you're talking about. And that's the thing, is that there's a lot there's in society, there's a whole lot of just this, and people dealing in belief, right? And belief is, by definition, well, at least one manifestation of belief is to think that something is true without any type of evidence, right? And thinking and knowing is two different frequencies, right?
Mm,
It's two different movements. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that there's a bear in the woods. I'm gonna take my chances. But when I know there's a bear in the woods, I'm gonna go this other way, right? It's
yeah.
two different mindsets. You know what I mean? I believe I believe, you know, I believe that that dog's gonna bite me because it's off the leash, right? But if you're observing its ways and actions, and you can see with a clear mental picture that, yo, the dog's fine, I'm good, then that's two different frequencies, right? So that's what it comes down to, man, is that, going back to the name, right? Um, I've had many different names, and you know, the reason why I chose Hardbody Dreams is because, um, a my lyricism, my cadence, the metaphors, the words, the lyrics that I use, the way I structure the songs, the content is hard body. You know what I'm saying? And hard body is a term, right? It's a term that's like, it's almost like you see, it's like, oh, that shit, yo, that shit's hard body, that shit's gangster, that shit's,
I'm
that shit's lit, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
I'm familiar. I've listened to
yeah,
enough hip
yeah.
hop to know what hard body means. Yeah,
Yeah, well, so you never know, right? Some listeners, they might, they whoever's listening, they may not know, right?
true,
So we
true.
gotta make
Yeah,
knowledge born, right? Manifest
true.
my name all day. He Allah rule divine. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes, sir.
um, and so it's, and the dream aspect is, I've always been a dreamer. You know what I'm saying? And as a Pisces, our imagination runs deep. You know what I mean? That's one of the that's part of the, dealing with the characteristics of my sign, right, is the dreaming, right? So and really, hard body is the reality, because it's like I'm taking the things that I've dreamt about and then manifested into reality. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I might even just change it to hard body reality. You know what I mean? I just might do that. You know what I mean? Like, but when it comes to, yeah, like the name, the name that you are either given or the name that you choose for yourself. And that's another thing, is like, no man or woman can tell me who I am. You see what I'm saying? And
Mm.
that, and how many of us have gone through that in life, where whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your grandparents, whether it's the school system, whether it's the court system, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Whether it's, being at the justice, the justice cipher born, which is your job, you know what I mean? All these people around are trying to tell you who you are, right? But nobody can tell you who you are. Only you can bear witness to who the fuck you are.
Yeah. Self creation, right? Yeah.
That's what it is, man.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right?
Powerful. It's powerful. I've told people that, and it's something. So the gospel of hip hop takes teachings, I believe, probably some of them from the Nation of Gods and Earths, as well as from Islam and Christianity and various different theologies, and he uses bits and pieces of them to just convey, what a hip hop way of life should look like, and that can kind of be like a lofty thing to talk about sometimes or whatever, but seriously, the book changed my life, man. So like,
Yeah.
it's something that he also practices and talks about how, like, hip hop, they got it recognized as a nation of people, a worldwide nation of people, recognized by the United Nations. um
Wow. I did not
so
know that.
so when KRS-One says I am hip hop, or when I say I am hip hop, we're talking about a culture. Like, anytime I spell hip hop, it pisses me off when I see people spelling hip hop any way other than capitalized, right?
Ah,
But you're supposed to spell it capitalized like a proper name, because
yes.
just
Yes.
like if I were to say Canadian or whatever other nationality, that's a group of people that have unified and bonded over a common art form and a common way of life, a common set of values and morality. It talks about all that stuff, and encourages discipline. And I was fasting every Thursday for years on end through my 20s or whatever, because that
Ah,
book told me, build your discipline, and
yes.
uh,
Yes.
it talked
Yes.
about how once you, if you can fast for a day and continue doing what you're doing, and it stresses, like, don't complain about it while you're doing it. If you're out working, don't tell everybody, oh, I'm fasting today, I'm gonna be slow, I'm gonna be sluggish, whatever. Like, push through that shit, own it, and eventually you get that discipline to a point where, like, hunger is kind of something that I can take or leave at this point. I mean, of course, there's limits to it. You can't go forever without food, but um, it definitely showed me that, like, I don't actually need this whole like 3 meals a day, wake up, eat the good American breakfast or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you can survive in a lot of different ways, and yeah, I would recommend that book to you or anybody else who's watching this. It really broke down a lot of knowledge for me, um,
Well,
including some of the supreme mathematics stuff there. I haven't been studying it for years at this point, so
yeah. This
apologies, I fucked up some of it, but
No, it's all good, B. This book right here, man, Message to the Black Man, written by Elijah Muhammad. I
hey,
mean, when we talk about the fasting aspect, this is not necessarily the book, but it does talk a little bit about it in it. But how to eat to live was like really kind of the foundation of the books written on fasting in America in the 30s, right?
okay,
And yes, even to get the knowledge, you have to go through a 3-day water fast before you get mathematics and alphabet. So, and I fast, I fast quite often. Um, I'm due for another one coming up here in the month of Master Allah Y, which is May,
okay,
and fasting definitely discipline. It really clears up your mind, um, cleans out your body, and yeah, the whole 3 month the 3 meal a day type thing, like that's killing your body,
yeah.
and it's killing your mind, especially um what you're consuming. um it like you got to take in consideration like all of the parasites that are in the food. um
When you
like
mentioned how to eat to live, it reminded me of a MF Doom bar where he says, "How to eat to die" by the pizza guy, right?
yes,
Right.
yes,
That's
and I
that's a gem, man. Because yeah, you
yes,
don't want to
and I
eat that every day. You know.
No, you don't. And I ain't gonna front. I like to have my pizza. Like, yo, like, don't get me
Yeah.
twisted, right? Like I'll order up a Domino's and slay a whole large pizza to my head, no problem. But I also bear witness that that is not so much um it's not so much me. It's more about, food turns into a frequency of comfortability.
Mm,
It turns into a frequency of um it becomes like, for example, for people who are, drug addicts and alcoholics and they get sober, right? They tend to eat, like heroin addicts, they tend to eat a lot of chocolate.
right.
Um,
Because they're replacing one kind of fix with another, or chasing a feeling, right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
you're looking to replace um the feeling, but there's also the science of, depending on if you use opiates or stimulants, right? Stimulants, people like to eat a lot of sugar because it still reactivates the same dopamine in the brain, right?
Mm,
So um you'll see is that people will get sober and then they get really fat because they eat a lot of garbage. um and you can't really blame them. I mean, if you came off of the streets, you were like fucking 90 pounds,
yep.
your ribs are showing, you're scabbed up, and then you come into a recovery house or a treatment center and you're getting 3 meal. I mean, some places, you're getting a lot of food. You know what I mean? It's you're getting a lot of food, right? Or even when you go to prison, right? Drug addicts love going to prison because they know
Sure.
they're gonna get 3 meals. They're gonna
Three
get a
hots on a cot, right?
That's right. You're
Yeah.
gonna get that, right? And then, back to the races after your bid, right? So but yeah, food is a very, we develop interesting relationships with food as children, you know? And
Yeah.
if the proper if you're not introduced to the proper dietary laws. Um, as a child, when you eat something as an adult, it is a memory that has been created in your subconscious mind.
Mm.
And your subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of your manifestations in life. That's a scientific fact. And 5% of your conscious mind is in control. And so when you look at your body is yeah, you know your your motor actions and stuff, right, is being ran by your cerebellum, right? um However, when it comes to the internal organs that are running in your body, that's your unconscious mind. So you could be, for example, like if you watch Ninja Turtles when you're a kid, right, the movie.
Yeah.
For me, I love that shit, right? And so I watched it recently as a grown man, you know, and I started having tears, you know what I mean? And
Did
I'm
it
like,
hold up? Still,
pardon?
it held up? Still got the same nostalgia from it or whatever? You got,
I did, bro, and
yeah.
it was like it was healing for my inner child. You know what I'm saying? Because like there is a level of comfort there. There's a level of safety there. There's something there that's connected to my childhood. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
Right? I'm 37 now. Right? So it's like this is the type of level of and depth of like your mind and the connection to food, movies, everything that's
Anything. Yeah,
yeah, bro.
any brand, right? And these brands spend billions of dollars and study and figure out how to best manipulate that subconscious part of people. I saw a
Straight up.
quote from some McDonald's CEO or some high up at McDonald's just last week. There was a quote that was thrown around the internet where he said something about how millennials are killing their business because of brand promiscuity, was what he that was the quote from the dude. Brand promiscuity. So
What's
he,
promiscuity? What does
well,
that mean?
like, a promiscuous person is out having sex with a lot of partners, right?
Ah,
So to say brand promiscuity, like, this dude feels like we're supposed to be like loyal, as though that was a partner to us, to
ah,
McDonald's, but they're selling
ah.
poison, so
Yeah,
it's
that's very interesting. That's
yeah,
very interesting.
but beyond food, brands, whatever, clothing brands, fucking anything, people can get hooked on it, and then just do it by habit without consciously thinking about it. Can be dangerous for people. I wanted to ask you something though about um the 5%er nation and nation of gods and earths. Do you think that, like, at this point, is hip-hop instrumental in its spread, or like, what's the representation in Vancouver like? Are there people out there that practice along with you?
So the 5% nation, some call it nation of gods of earth, some call it Allah's 5%. Um, there's me, and a couple of my fruit, the brothers I taught, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
the firstborn in Vancouver. I'm the
Okay.
firstborn, which means um, the first who got the knowledge
Yeah.
here. You know what I'm
I
saying?
I heard your music and was like, this doesn't feel like Vancouver to me. This doesn't seem like something I expected from Vancouver, and not in a bad way, right? Like in a
No,
pleasant
it's in a good
surprise
way.
kind of a way.
It's in a good
Um,
way. I
but
know.
I've
It's
I've heard
nostalgic.
guys on that tip from Toronto, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And to me, I guess in my mind, maybe because of Wu-Tang, or like, I think, the Nation of Islam was based in New York to begin with, but I always kind of associate that entire movement with like New York and the East Coast. So to hear um somebody dropping that knowledge in Vancouver, I was like, oh, okay, this is unique and interesting to me. um I think it was actually your dude, Guilty Black. I think I was following him And then I saw, you know, like I said, I find artists through who's collaborating with who. So he must have collaborated with somebody I was following, and then you know, that opened the door, and I discovered your music through that. But
Mm.
collaboration is a powerful thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is that dealing with today's mathematics being wisdom born, um, wisdom is also experience, right? And experience is, they say, can be the best teacher. So, like, the things that I've gone through in my Quran, my history is brought me to this point and has kept me alive until this point. And so, as a man who chose this way of life, who chose this culture, um it's my duty to teach all the human families of the planet Earth, to civilize those who are uncivilized. And the 85, right? The 85 are poison animal eaters, slaves of a mental death and power, people who do not know who the true and living God is or their origin in this world, and worship
Mm.
that which they know not.
Yeah.
Those easily led in the wrong direction, but hard to lead in the right direction. So it's I can't have the knowledge and be talking about devilishment. You know what I'm saying? I
Or you'd
can't
be the
be.
10%, right? Isn't that the 10% have the knowledge of the truth, but they won't spread it to the 85? Isn't that the belief?
Well, it's not a belief; it's a fact.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a belief; it's a fact, and that
Sorry,
is a
I
that's
don't
no.
mean
It's
to be
all.
offensive or anything. I,
No,
you
no,
know,
it's
yeah.
not. No, it's not. You're not offending me, bro. Um, I'm not on the defense, so you're not offending me. You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate
Um,
it.
when it comes to um you know the words that we use, it's this is what it taught me, is that it's like I said, right? We got to be right and exact. And so, but with that statement that you made, yeah, the 10% is they're the rich slave makers of the poor who tell the poor lies. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? To believe that the almighty true and living God is a spook that cannot be seen by the physical eye, otherwise known as bloodsuckers of the poor, right? So yeah, the 10%ers are your politicians, man, are your pastors, are your priests, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
CEOs, right?
CEOs, bankers, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? A 10%er could be somebody in your own fucking neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, he may have knowledge that could elevate you, but he don't want to share it with you, or
Keeps it
she
to
don't want to share
himself.
it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? And that's the thing about, the 5% nation, is that we tell the truth. You know what I'm saying? We stand on our square with this. The father of this nation, and please don't call him Clarence 13X, because that ain't his name. If you if you
Apologies. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you was gonna say that, I'm just gonna let you know right now, I'm pulling out of your mind not to say that, because that is not his name. That's what the Nation of Islam called him, right?
Okay.
But we know him to be Allah. You see what I'm saying? And he took 7 shots. You see what I'm saying? He took 7 shots
Damn.
for this nation, right? He went to, they put him in Bellevue and Mattawan, right? Because he stood on June 2nd, 1965, in front of Judge Francis the 10th O'Brien, you know what I'm saying, in New York, and told him, look, man, I'm God Allah, right? I'm God
Okay.
Allah.
It was in New York though. So
No, well, you no. What you said was the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam didn't start in New York. It was in Detroit. But
okay.
but
Yeah.
it had the famous Temple Number 7 where Malcolm X taught, right?
Sure.
And that's where
Sure.
the father was. You know what I mean? After coming home from serving in the U.S. military from October 30th, 1952 to he was honorably discharged October 22nd, 1954, and then spent 6 years in the Army Reserves to September 11th, 1960. You see what I'm saying? And the God was he mastered martial arts. He was given a Bronze Star. You know what I'm saying? And the Bronze Star is the fourth and highest of medals that you can get in the U.S. military. You got the Medal of Honor, you got the Navy, Air Force, Army Cross, then you got the Silver Star, and then you got the Bronze Star. And the Bronze Star is given to those who are heroic and meritorious in combat. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So Allah is the God, right? And he brought that to the black. So he brought that to the black youth in Harlem at the time when the Nation of Islam was not giving those degrees and lessons, those lessons and the degrees that were in the lessons to the babies. And he manifested that. And October 10th, 1964 is the agreed date of, of year one of the 5% Nation, right? So when it comes to,
Sorry, can you say the
having
date for year one again? When was it?
October 10th, 1964.
64. Okay.
Yeah. 1964, and he manifested that to the first nine born, and many others after that. And in that time, you know, you had a lot of different black groups, right? You had the Black Panthers, you had the Muslim Gods, you had a lot of these different uh groups, right? And even when they assassinated Dr. King, it was Allah and his 5% who walked through the streets and calmed the people down. You see what I'm saying? He told them, don't riot. You know what I mean? Don't burn things down, right? And it was through that, it was through his wisdom, his ways and actions, he manifested himself as Allah. And Mayor Lindsay was like, yo, I'm gonna get down with this brother, man. How can I help you? You know what I'm saying? And he gave Allah the school of Mecca, you know what I'm saying? And a 99-year lease for $1 a year. Tell me what white man is going to do that for a brother
Yeah.
in the 1960s, bro.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We're talking about the civil rights movements. We're talking about the assassination of King, Malcolm X, right? Like you like, and it's a different time, right? And people who don't know about the 5% Nation, they may have this idea based on what they watch and see on the fucking TV and the television, telling lies to your vision, right?
Yeah.
This culture, you have to live, you have to get it mouth to ear. You see what I'm saying? 120 degrees is on my mind, in my mind. We learn that, we cap it, it's on our mind. We walk and talk. You see what I'm saying? It's if you had, for example, all of this knowledge, right? And it was in let's say it was in a library, bro. And them motherfuckers came through and burnt that shit down like Alexander the Great. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like all of that knowledge is lost, right? Now the ones who memorize it, live it out, oh, well, it's in the mind, so it don't matter. You're going to have to kill me. You know what I mean? That's the only way that knowledge is going to ever expire. You know what I mean? But if you're making your wisdom born to other people about it, then it continues on. And that's why Allah didn't die, because he said that when you come together, you're going to see me. You're going to see Allah, right? And what is Allah? Allah is the arm, leg, arm, head is the acronym for Allah, right? You know what I'm saying? See, a lot of people can't really fathom the idea of the black man being God because they have been programmed to see that the black man has always been a slave. But if you study and you come to know that everything on this planet came from the black man and
Creators of
woman.
civilization in the
Like
origin of humanity. Yeah.
Like let's keep it real, man. Like every ethnicity that you see manifested has come out of the black and brown germ, which is the black and brown allele. We're talking genetics. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the universe doesn't even exist without us, and it's not on no like this. We're not black supremacists. We're not black nationalists. You know what I mean? Allah said we are not pro-black nor anti-white. We are pro-righteousness and anti-devilishment. You see what I'm saying?
I was thinking about this today, and sorry to break in here, but I wanted to ask about that because to me, this idea, I was aware arm, leg, arm, head, God body, that, if you conduct yourself in a righteous manner and in a dignified and disciplined manner, you can either build or destroy. You can become God. At least that's the understanding that I've taken from it, anyways. And I think that's empowering for people of any race, right? To break free of the idea that there is, you know, a God watching over us, and realize that, you know, we're all God if we behave like one. You know, like you said, with the dignity and honor that uh well, Allah, the founder of the 5%, that he showed, it got him recognized to a point where he was then able to create this movement, right? This uh this I mean, yeah, this movement, this awakening for people, right? And an empowerment for people. Um it, today I was kicking around this idea of like, yo, can a white guy be a 5%er? Are there white 5%ers? Is that a thing? Or like, I'm familiar, you know, with the story of Yakub and like, it's
what do you think that you know about Yakub?
well, see, I wouldn't say that I know too much about it. I am familiar with it in a way that I have some outside understanding, well, not even understanding, some outside um idea of what that story was about, that I tried to explain it to my wife earlier today, actually, from what I understand of it. That basically, like, way back when Africa was the origin of civilization and humanity, um, which I think is like an undisputed fact, right? That eventually people started walking out of there, and one of them was this Yakub guy who got himself exiled because he was a mad scientist. I mean, it's been a long time since I read anything about this or heard this story, so I'm probably very badly paraphrasing and trying to tell this story, but went to the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasians from the Caucasus Mountains, and created a race of pale skinned people, right? That that's something along the lines of the story of Yakub.
I mean, are you comfortable having this conversation?
uh, I don't know if there's a comfortable way to have this conversation, but yeah, I just brought it up, so let's
Well,
do it, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, look, the truth is uncomfortable. The truth is uncomfortable when we've been living in a lie for the longest time, right? So
Word.
the truth doesn't. This is the thing about the truth, is that the truth doesn't need me or you to express it. It stands on its own. It always will stand on its own. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um, as far as like the first, we'll do it first things first, last things last. So when you ask, is there white 5%ers? And I would say that there has been the colored man who has been taught by a Allah, because he taught a colored man by the name of Azriel, and he
Okay.
met Azriel in Mattawan. And the way that the guards, because Mattawan was a mental institution, you know what I'm saying? So the way that they would, you know, from the words of from the mouth of Azriel himself, he said that those guards would literally put on steel toes and the kick kick those who were in the ward in the nuts. Like, this was like a daily thing, right? And Azriel was he was a fighter. And Pete, this Azriel was actually a real Kennedy. You see what I'm saying? John F. Kennedy was his like second cousin. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so this, you know, he just rebelled against them in the hospital there, right? And Allah, I'm gonna paraphrase, but um, Allah said, you must be a righteous man because of the way they're treating you. And Azrael looks at him and says, you must be God, right? And so, yes, he taught Azrael, and Azrael became a 5%er. Not all brothers and sisters accepted him, but there is a lot that did. And here's the thing about and we'll get to the Yakub thing, but the the point is that we gotta look at the truth, right? And I'm gonna take it back a little bit further because before we could understand what I said about not being pro-black or anti-white,
Hmm.
being pro-righteous and anti-devilishment,
Yeah.
we have to take it back to a time when this supreme wisdom was manifested by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam, and which was the supreme knowledge was manifested by W.D. Farrar to him, and Allah manifested the supreme understanding to us. So in that time, right, we're talking about a nation of people who had been kidnapped, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Had their
After
history forcibly erased, right?
kidnapped and stripped of the knowledge of self.
Yeah.
Now, they will tell you 1619 is the first wave of slaves who came over to America. And I would say that's a little bit correct. I would say that 1555, the first righteous civilized black man had came into the wilderness of North America in the time of occupation of what my man's Elijah would say, the devil, which was the white man, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I say that because during the occupation, because we can show and prove that people like Mansa Musa and even Ramses III had already came to America and were trading with the original people on this continent. You see
Yeah,
what
we're
I'm
getting
saying?
that lightning storm outside right now. It looks badass on the screen, bro. The
Okay,
lightning
okay.
keeps going off as he's telling this.
Yeah, because what makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes? That's all that above is caused by the Son of Man. So when I build, yeah, you gonna bear witness to that. Like but anyways, I'm gonna stay on topic. So
Sorry.
no, it's all good. It's all good. So when it comes to even the writings and the manuscripts of Columbus, Columbus will tell you straight up that when he came to America, it was nothing. It was black people. You see what I'm saying? And as he did his devilishment and was trying to play Portugal against Spain, right? And he was going through all of the Americas. He was seeing these original indigenous black people. Black is a political term,
Yeah.
but we are the original Asiatics, right? And so
Does that
original
term
me
actually mean like from Asia? I've obviously
well,
heard the term Asiatic black man before,
Africa
in
is
these respects, but where does the
Africa was
Asiatic come from? Is that Asian? Like,
Asiatic because Asiatic, well, when you look at the word Asia, right? I mean, Asia is a place. The Greeks called it Asia, right? In Arcadian, it meant Asu, and Asu was the place it was to the east or the place of the rising sun. And Asia is the largest body of continent on the planet, right? And there was a time when they were all connected, right? And so the original people of that continent called it Asia. The white man called it Africa, hence Africanus, who
okay.
was a traveler, right? So the reason of that, it was to separate and divide, right? The original people, we ain't call ourselves Africans, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Right? But we're going to use these terms for those who don't know what's going on so they can have a little understanding of what I'm saying, right?
Right.
So
Because that's what's on the maps that the white guys back then made. Yeah.
exactly,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so going back to the original people already being on this continent, right? And because we were civilized, right? Um, you know, we it, we basically let, you know, Columbus and the fucking Spaniards and all those guys that, were sent by Ferdinand and Isabella up there in Spain, mind you, who were not in power that long because up until 1492, it was ran by the North Africans, the Moors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they done civilized Europe for centuries, right? The second wave of civilization came there in 7-Eleven, right? So that can be shown and proved so many different ways, right? But I'm building up into the Yakub story. So
Sure.
just stay with me, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm loving it, man. I appreciate you, sharing all this knowledge. I'm here for it.
so when it comes to fast forwarding to 1619, and we're talking about a ship by the name of Jesus of Lubeck, right? With the man John Hardy Hopkins, right? And this nigga was a motherfucking savage, for real, right? Like, he was even robbing Portugal ships to kidnap slaves, right? And who funded that? Well, the first Queen of England, right? Because the English was late, you know what I'm saying? When it came
Right.
to kidnapping, right? I don't even like to call it slavery because it was kidnapping,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, that's what they were doing, right? So you bring them, and obviously they had, the indigenous people of the land. I use the word indigenous because that's how people are going to best identify with quote unquote Native Americans. However, those weren't even, that ain't even the proper terminology.
It was, yeah. They were here before it was called America. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And those were the ones who were exiled from India 16,000 years prior even to the Ice Age. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Now you
Yeah.
had those who came over the Bering Strait, but there was those who were there before even that happened. So, and this can be all shown and proven. You know what I'm saying? Read They Came Before Columbus by Ivan Van Sertima. You know what I'm saying? That's a very good book to read. And
The
so
decade before Columbus, Ivan Van Sertima. Okay.
no. They came before Columbus.
Oh, they came before Columbus. Okay. Yep.
They came before Columbus. And Ivan Van Sertima was a black scholar who just demolished all of these racist, um, systemic racist anthropologists, right? You know what I mean? We're talking about people who strive to hide the identities of the original people, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fast forwarding now, right? We're talking 379 years of slavery, right? You know what I'm saying? Um, in that context, right? Um, we're talking about, you kidnap a people, right? And then you create laws saying that they're not even one third of a man, right? Because of their color of their skin,
I mean, it
right?
sounds devilish to me. I can't call it
Hold
any
on,
other
hold
way,
on,
right?
hold on, hold
Yeah.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
This is
Because
the thing: is I'm a white guy, but I don't sit here and try to like defend the legacy that white people have fucking created. Man, it's it's shameful to me. It's yeah,
and that's
colonialism across the world has destroyed a lot of shit and built a real corrupt society off of it. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, and that's peace, brother. You know what I'm saying? Because look, like I said, I'm not this is not me, this is not, for the audience who's listening right now, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I'm also an artist, right? And I got to think about, is this going to engage people, or is this going to repel, is this going to attract or repel, right?
Mm.
um but the truth I chose to speak because that's the truth, right? So um I understand that people are going to accept it and people are going to reject it,
Yeah.
right? So but we build it. So the point is that um I let people know that I'm not like against white people. And
Right.
and as a whole, the 5% nation was never manifested to be like that. The It was only to raise all of those who were in a state of being dumb, deaf, and blind, right? Because when Allah taught Azrael went to go teach the colored man. He went to go teach the colored man, and the colored man is the white man. So he went to go teach the white man. And obviously, they rejected him, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of white people that don't know, but you got to know that the elites know, right?
Mm.
For example, Rockefellers, right? The eugenics whole movement, right? The eugenics movement and the collaboration with the Nazis, right?
Right.
And the destruction of the black babies at birth. And I use that term because that's in one of our degrees. You know what I'm saying? What was the nurse's law was to kill all the black babies at birth by sticking a pin in its head or feed it to some wild beast and tell its mother a lie that her baby was an angel baby and that it was only taken to heaven, that someday she would have a home in heaven, right? When she died, basically, right? So, you know, we can look at eugenics, right? And see that when they brought and look, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm not you know, not against abortions and stuff like that. Um, because I think in certain situations
Yeah.
they're justified. But I want people to know that abortions were created to kill black babies. And you have to go and do your own study, and you will see that. And you will look at broads like Margaret Sanger, you know what I'm saying? Um,
I
these
mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. There would have been cultures around the world that were using, certain teas and things like that to abort pregnancy, I think, as well, in throughout history, right? But I wouldn't be surprised that the abortion as it currently is was created for, yeah, that purpose.
let me tell
like
you
you just
why
said.
though. Because after Emancipation Proclamation and after those rich slave makers couldn't no longer do that, right? They saw how the black nation was expanding, and we're having lots of babies, right?
Right.
And so, but because they stripped the original people of any type of literacy, any type of you know, foundation to stand on to be able to get education,
Yeah.
right? To like
Well, and
you have
stacked
the
all sorts of systematic oppression against them too, to break families up and destroy the family unit, right?
exactly. I mean that right there. I mean that's the welfare system, right?
Yeah.
That right there is the because if you look, man,
Well, Jim
it's
Crow laws and all that shit, right?
yo,
Like,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, bro. And we're talking about like, I mean, we're talking about, your I don't know if you heard of the term bucking, right? Bucking, right? So what they would do is they would fuck the alpha male in the ass. And then they would chop off his penis, and then they would burn his body, or they would tie him to four different horses and have them go in each direction.
So
You know what I'm
fucked up,
saying?
man. I
In
was recently reading online about how cannibalism was a thing. How white people there was a book about like how to cook people that was
that is
on the internet
100%.
recently.
That's 100% right and exact. That's actually a cuisine in Kazakhstan, straight up. So it's and so I'm only saying this because I wanted to get to the point of why Elijah called them devils, right? Like you said it, right? But why Elijah called them devils, right?
Yeah.
Why, a devil is a person that devalues. You know what I'm saying? Devilishment is to devalue,
Yeah.
right? Devilishment is weak and wicked mindset. It's your ways and actions are weak and wicked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we can look at ancient we can look at like even the Kemet, the Kemites, right? The Kemites had slaves, right? But even within that, it wasn't always about you had to convert to Christianity. You had to do this because of your color. Nah, man, you was a slave is because you were a prisoner of war. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? Like there was no ethnicity on the planet that has not gone to every nation on the planet and tried to destroy them
Right.
mentally and physically, and bring forth um confusion, right? It's not it's This is the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the truth. It's not it's We have to stop looking at like, yo, man, like, oh, you're saying that because you're black. Nah, nigga, if I was white I could see that shit. It doesn't matter.
Exactly, man. So, and to me, as somebody who's been listening to, this philosophy from an outside perspective, today I realized, like, shit, I've never really talked to somebody who actually like knows his lessons. I've always just
Heard it
been
on the music. Yeah.
heard it in music, seen it on movies, whatever, read it in books. But so it's, as I've listened to it, I've been able to tell myself, okay, yeah, they're talking about all the devilish shit white people did. But then earlier today, I was thinking, like, I hope that that's what they're talking, that's what they mean, you know, because like,
Well,
yeah,
when you say
there
that,
was
what
part
do you?
of me that was like, God damn, am I not supposed to be a fan of this? Because it resonates with me. I mean, talking about the evils that have been done through colonialism, it's pretty clear cut. That was some evil shit, you know, and it continues to be to this fucking day, man. I used to work at a supervised consumption site, and in my opinion, when the conservatives that took over Alberta shut that shit down and defunded it, and the deaths spiked and spiked and spiked, and a bunch of First Nations people are the people dying, that's a continued genocide, if you ask me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Oh man, that's
it's not all in the past even at this point.
you know. I
You know,
mean,
far from it,
yeah.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, what is it? 19, I think it was 1975, the last residential school was closed,
I thought it
right?
was in the 90s. I thought I'd have to Google it to be sure, but I thought that there was
Okay,
one up until the 90s even. But
it
yeah,
could that could be true too. That could be true too.
either
Still,
way, more
either
recently than people like to, you know, talk
and
about it.
that and that's the thing, right? It's like, you know, but but just before, right? Because the whole Yakub thing, right? Like, here's the thing, right? Is that Yakub was an original black man and father of the devil. He taught them how to do the devilish, man. There was a time when the colored man, the white man, was very civilized because he was taught by the original man. Now, Yakub could be a physical person. He taught them how to do devilishment, stealing, telling lies, and how to master the original man. He could have taught them to do. He could be a physical person because when you look at Jacob in the Bible, right? J didn't even come into the alphabet until later on into the 19th century. So
Okay.
when you look at Jacob, that's Jacob,
Yeah, cool.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when we look at the story of Jacob, what did he do? He tricked Esau out of his birthright. Okay. He ended up grafting sheep, right, into white sheep. I'm going to tell you right now, most animals on the planet, if not all, that are white are grafted, bro. I'm just telling you. That's why they say things like, oh, you're the black sheep. You ever think that the black sheep was the original sheep? You know what I'm saying? These little
Okay.
terminologies, right? But that's a whole other science.
So
The,
you're talking through selective breeding or whatever they
exactly. Selective breeding. That's what I'm going
chose
to get to. That's
chose
what I'm
for
going to
white
get to.
sheep. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, selective breeding, right? And you can do that right now. So for example, if you I don't know what ethnicity your wife is, but let's just say your wife was black, right?
She's Mi'kmaq. She's from the East Coast First Nations. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
original sister. Shout out to your queen, man. Shout out to your queen. Shout out to you and your queen. Um, is that if you were to have a child with a black baby, right? The baby is going to come out lighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that baby has a baby with a white person, it's going to come out lighter. Then it's going to continue. So this process, right, started from a black and a brown, okay? And through the process of killing off the black babies, only the browns were able to marry each other and have children. Then
Mm.
the complexion got lighter. And as this happens, your genetics become recessive because there is something called a homozygous and a heterozygous, right? This is genetics, right?
It's been a long
So,
time since I was in biology, but yeah, those terms sound like they're real. I believe you.
oh man, I mean, this is the science of it, right? Like when you look at And look, I'm only dealing with the science, and I'm only telling the truth. And anybody who's on this call right now, I'm gonna continue to make it born to you that I am not a racist person. I'm not a black supremacist or none of that shit. My brother here is asking me questions about what we teach and what the truth potentially is.
Well, and I
Right?
hope I'm not overstepping by asking these questions. Like I said, I
I
was
mean, I mean,
debating
not step.
whether this
I
was
mean, you're not
something I could ask
overstepping,
or
man.
not, you know?
I'm building. I mean, I'm building. Like we like builders build. Like it's like don't
I,
take me on face value. Go and study yourself.
yeah,
Right?
hell yeah. Yeah.
We can look at the facts are in the proof is in the pudding. Don't get the peas mixed up. It's right
Yeah.
there. Right? So the whole story of that is like, it's it doesn't matter if it was a physical person or if it was a mindset.
Right.
Though it still exists,
Sure.
regardless to whom or what. But what I want to make born to y'all is that the white man came from the black man,
Mm,
and in order to make devil, one must be first begin grafting from the original. So just like the white man can be the devil, the black man can be the devil too. You see
sure.
what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
only thing is that when we're talking about the supreme intelligence, right? The single cell organism turned into an atom, manifested itself and willed itself into the black man. So therefore, he is God. He is the
Mm,
natural order of everything that is going on, the creator of all things. Because what Christianity and Catholicism and all of these religions will tell you is that God is a mystery. You know what I'm saying? But the fact is that, look, when we look at especially Christianity, right? And I study the Bible, I study these things, right? We can look at so many simple things, right? Like if God is not a man, then why did he say let us create him in our image, right? In our word. Let us, first of all, key word, us.
mm,
We're on the phone call, Doobyis. It's
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
There's people on the call. It's us, right? Let us make man in our image, our, right? So if we're at a, if we're we're cooking we're barbecuing in your backyard right now. This is our meal that we're cooking, right?
Are we sure though that that wording in the Bible wasn't just because some king was like, "Yo, we need to make men more important"? Because the Bible was rewritten a lot of times, right? And
Show me a version where it doesn't say let us make man in our image.
yeah, I'm not that well studied. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
you sound like you're rattling off facts and dates and stuff. So it sounds like you've studied this topic more than I have for sure. And I
Well,
appreciate you, sharing
well, listen.
knowledge, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, bro. It's like, the fact is that, you know, when you when a nation of people try so hard to keep the truth hidden, right? It's like
Mm,
a pressure cooker, man.
yeah,
Eventually the lid's gonna blow, right? Because you can't continue to lie and lie and lie and not reap the feel the repercussions of that, and the truth will always stand on its own, regardless, right? That's why I said some people will accept this and some people will reject it. But the truth is the truth. It doesn't whether you hear from maybe this is the first time that people are hearing this and they're like maybe it
mm,
sparks them to go and study and be like, yo,
right.
like what the God is saying is actual factual. You know what I'm saying? And I'm taking it from supreme mathematics all the way to Pluto. This is the science, right? This is the truth,
Yeah.
right?
And
You know
it's
what I
they've
mean?
tried to hide it. They don't want people to know who the Moors were, They,
For sure. And
yeah,
they can't hide that shit now. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? They
yeah.
can't hide that shit no more, right? There's too much like that is like, bro, we're talking about them niggas they brought science, they brought religion, they
Mm,
brought literature, they brought math, over 17 different universities created in Spain alone. You know what I'm saying? Like the truth is the truth. We
mm,
can look at the biological um we can look at the biological um um physicality of the bodies compared to black and white, right? In the white person, they have more hydrochloric acid. That's why y'all niggas can eat so much fucking meat. You know what I'm saying? and it doesn't. And even like, yo, I got a brother that he's from Ireland, man. Shout out to Max, Travel Bug. This nigga be out there, he's wearing shorts and it's like fucking -10. Minus, yo,
Built for
what?
cold weather, man. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, you can't tell me through the process of being in West Asia, as they now call it Europe, like
Mm.
the genetics are different. And the only thing I always say to people is like, look, man, if if this God in the sky was white and we live on on a planet, right, which needs the sun and is 93 million miles away from the sun to survive, why is it that
Yeah.
more white why is it that white people get more skin cancer than black people?
Sure. Yeah. Because we're not melanated, right? That's yeah. Gotta slather on lead on ourselves so that the sun doesn't fucking cook us, bro.
And that fucking and that sun tanning lotion, bro.
Yeah.
There's some wicked shit behind
Oh,
that, bro.
dude, it's full of cancers. Last summer, I was looking for one that wasn't full of all these cancerous fucking chemicals and shit. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I found that out. That like, yeah, it made me just be like, all right, well then I guess I'm going to the shade more often. I'll be over there under that tree.
Yeah,
So I don't turn
you
red.
know.
Like,
But like I
God
said,
damn.
right? Like, I look, man, I love everybody, bro. Like I
Mm,
truly love everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have hate in my heart because that's what, like, anybody who's wanting to be, anybody who chooses to live out devilishment, whether you black, brown, yellow, white,
yeah.
that's what you want. You know what I'm saying? You want that hate, you want that division, right?
In,
Allah adds on and multiplies, does not divide and subtract.
in that gospel of hip hop I mentioned earlier, they
Yeah.
teach that God is love. That God is love, basically. The force, and I mean, there's several
Mhm.
chapters about it, so it's tough for me to sum it up here like this.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
ultimately, it comes down to what you were saying, that people can act righteously or they can act devilishly, and
Yeah,
uh, if everybody acted righteously, we would have heaven on earth. You know what I mean?
straight
We
up,
we we would
straight
have a
up,
paradise. We would.
straight up,
Um,
straight
so
up.
those are teachings that I took to heart and was like, okay, so let's be less destructive. Let's be less hateful. Try to spread love. And I think that's powerful. That's a powerful message for everybody. So yeah, it just struck me hearing a bar about the Asiatic black man is God or whatever, where I was like, can't we all be though? Like, but I get what you're saying, that it all came from black people originally, that yeah, people
Well,
lost melanin.
you gotta just look at, like, naturally when it comes to the universe, bro. Like, it's not, look, it's not, look, man, when we break down the word God, right? God is the supreme authority, right? The supreme
Mm,
authority of the universe, the supreme being, right? Supreme, highest form, right? Being, meaning to exist, right? It's like this, man. Naturally, naturally, everything on this planet is melanated.
mm,
Everything, all the nature, bro, all of it, right? You know what I mean? Naturally, meaning nature, meaning the natural order. Like I said
yeah,
before, right? When you look at the soil of the earth, the richest soil is black soil. You see what I'm saying? Why you think, like, for why you think the earth, it collaborates with us so well. You know what I'm saying? It collaborates with us so well because your body needs the minerals that are that come from the earth. You see what I'm saying? It's like, look, man, you can strive to be the highest supreme form of yourself, which is, yes, to be right, to be civilized, to be righteous, and to have the look, man. Doobyis, if you said, yo, Supreme, I want the knowledge, you know what I'm saying? I'd be like, yeah, I'll teach you, no problem. You know what I'm saying? And it'd be for you to draw it up on your own and see if it's right for you. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Because we are not converters. You see what I'm saying? This is not religion. You know what I mean?
sure.
Religion is to rely on. You know
You're
what I'm
not gonna
saying?
force it on me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, man, we don't do that. We're not missionaries. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? We're not out here trying to tell you, look, man, you going to hell if you don't follow Jesus Christ. I would say, well, You know, when I build with Christians, sometimes these niggas don't even know their own book, bro. They don't even read the Old Testament.
I'd say
And
most of the time,
you know what I'm saying?
very few people have read that book. You know,
They
a lot
just
of
go.
people will profess themselves as a Christian, but then they'll do all sorts of shit that goes against the actual teachings in that book, or you know, the actual words that it says Jesus spoke or whatever. He wasn't about any of this discrimination, you know,
No,
not according to the fucking words that are written in that book. Anyway, from what I've heard, I went to
no,
church
man.
till I was 11, and then I decided it was a good morality tale. And past that, I mean, like I think there are lessons to take from Christianity, but
For sure.
you know,
And check this though,
there's
Christianity
lessons to
started
take
in
from everything.
Ethiopia. Okay?
Where
That's the thing. It started in Ethiopia. The original Christianity started in Ethiopia. It was the European Christianity that fucked a lot of people up. And they used, like I said, I'm telling you the story of the ship that was taking motherfuckers from their homeland. It was called
Yeah.
Jesus of Lubeck. You can
That's,
look that shit up.
that's fucked up, man. Yeah.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
was the
How you
first
gonna
ship that pulled up to start the
Well,
whole.
from England, yeah, from
Okay.
England, right? Because the Portuguese had their own stuff too, right? But the point that that's what I'm saying is like, yo, my art, like the original people don't even know this, right? And it's
Mm,
like I got people who share the same color complexion and be like, nah, you wrong. You know what I mean? You're wrong. And I'm like, am I wrong? Or is it you just don't want to quote unquote believe something else because this is all you've been implanted in your subconscious mind is this is the way, Jesus is
yeah.
the way. Look, man, Jesus told you according to your faith shall it be done unto you. You understand? According to your faith, according to your trust in yourself that it can be done.
Mm,
It's not like the book is a very great book. It's an esoteric book. It's like it's esoteric. You know what I'm saying? It's all dealing with the inside, God. It's all dealing with the inside.
yo,
You know what I'm
this
saying?
has been a very special episode of Fly Information. Most of the time, we end up talking about like, yo, how did you record your album? Where did you, you know?
I know. I'm kind of like a week. I know. I'm kind of like, yo, how much time we got left? Is there any more you want to know about the music? You know what I'm saying?
We've been talking for a long time. Can I put you through before I let you go? Can I ask you some more of these questions about the
Yeah.
music though?
Yeah.
Like I told you,
Absolutely.
we do this section
Absolutely.
called "How important is this or that?" So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay. I appreciate this talk though. This has been dope. Just getting to chop it up with you and ask some questions that I've genuinely kind of wondered, you know, for a
Yeah.
long time. Like,
Yeah.
where do people stand on that? But yeah, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate this.
Indeed.
How about how important is stage banter or storytelling between songs when you're performing?
I think it's very important. I think that that whole aspect of connecting with the crowd, um, that is the true characteristic of an MC
Mm,
and not just a record label rapper. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
A MC, master of ceremonies, he knows how to command the crowd. You know what I mean? Um, and he knows how to utilize the crowd in his music or her music. You see what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
So being somebody who does that myself, I know how important it is because it makes them feel a part of the music.
right,
It's not just them being a spectator. Now they're a participator. You see what I'm saying? They're
yeah,
participating in your songs. I mean, especially if you're somebody that's just building your fan base and you go to a spot, say you go to a spot and nobody knows you, right? If you are able to do that, you gonna have people knowing you. Because it's different when you go to you know what I mean, you go to a Woo concert and it's like everybody knows they already know the shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Them dudes don't even have to. They can just put the mic up to the crowd and they're gonna sing their whole shit, right?
Let people rap Old Dirty's verse or
You
whatever.
know
Yeah,
what I'm saying, right?
yeah,
So, however, yeah, brothers like KRS, you know what I mean? Like, Jake, the Locks, you know what I mean? I was just watching them against Dipset today.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was the best
Just,
verses ever, man. Yeah,
yeah,
they put on a clinic of how to MC.
you know
And
what
what
I
you said
mean?
about the difference between rappers and MCs, that's another thing KRS talks about in that gospel of hip hop is, you know, rappers are people trying to push a product, trying to
Yes.
make money off of this thing, and
Yes.
it's a commercialized form of emceeing, basically. So yeah,
Yes.
I agree
Yes.
wholeheartedly with what you said there, man.
Yeah.
How about how important is listening to legends of hip hop?
I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say 9. Um, because through listening to the foundation, right, and seeing how it was born, now you're going to be able to have your own foundation and add it to the cipher and whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah,
So if you're not studying where this culture started and how it manifested, in my eyes, I don't know if you're necessarily an MC. And I would kind of say it's a little culture vulturish. I ain't going
yeah,
front.
yeah.
I would think it's a little culture vulturish because you come into the culture and you acting like
Like you belong there, and like you're supposed to be in the spotlight, carrying the torch for it.
man. I just paused because it reminded me of um I'll have to send it to you, but this I battled this dude named MC Save the Whales, and there was like a press conference type thing, around it, kind of like some UFC type shit.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen his stuff online. He sounds like a dope MC. I've never talked to the guy, but oh,
Well, I mean, he ain't an MC. I'm just gonna tell you right now. And
okay.
this is the thing, man. Like I crushed him in a battle, so it doesn't matter. Everybody knows it, right? But
Sure.
the point is that I asked him a question about hip hop, right? You know, like where did hip hop start? Where is the accredited borough?
Sedgwick
Who is
Cav. Yeah.
who is the accredited DJ? Who I got to meet in the physical? Mr.
Cool Herc.
DJ Hurt.
Yeah,
Cool Hurt.
damn. Damn.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So he couldn't even tell me that. You know what I mean? And then you
What is
got
it,
the nerve.
1520 Sedgwick or something like that? I forget the numbers. Where they were throwing
No,
the
no,
first.
the numbers in my mind, but it's in the back. I have to bring it up again. But it is
Yeah,
Cedric. It is Cedric Drive. That's
definitely
the
Sedgwick Cav.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, but and then he had the nerve to be like, oh well, hip hop's evolved and it's an art form. I said, how you know how it evolved if you don't know where the fuck it started from? What's the birth spot, man? Where's the
Yeah.
birth? Right. So, I think, if you're an artist and you're in this thing called hip hop, you know what I mean? And you're claiming you're an MC,
Right.
right? Or even if you're a rapper, whatever, man. Yeah, go back, just study, go find out about the KRSs, the Big Daddies, the Rock Kims, the Supreme Team, the Brand Nubians, the um, you know, oh
All the
man,
way
the,
through,
the
man.
Cool
So
G
many of
raps.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, man, like
Rakim.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, man. Come on, man. Like that's what I'm saying, right? Go and study that to see where it started. Look
Yeah.
at the different spots, the Scarfaces, the NWAs, the Ice T's. You know what I'm saying? Like see
I
where.
was just so obsessed with this art form that I went back and did that without anybody telling me to. I was
Yeah,
growing up in small town Alberta, and it was like, all right, well, I guess I'll get HMV to order these fucking CDs for me, you know?
yeah, man.
Um, it-
Yeah, yeah,
because I was reading Source magazine and Double XL and just
yeah,
trying to absorb as much as I could, you know? Yeah. And I told you there's no right answers to these questions, but that one I
yep,
feel like has a right answer. You know, you
yeah.
got to listen to the legends of hip hop at least a little bit.
A
Um,
little bit.
yeah, you know, at least know who they are. At least know where this thing started and where it came from and what people stood for.
Well, I mean, that's the problem, right? Like, because of these labels in the industry and how they just how, you know, commercialized it is, it's like they got the kids so brain dead that I don't even want to say brain dead because there's a lot of smart motherfuckers out here, right?
Sure.
Like, you know, I don't want to say they're brain dead. I want to say that they're mentally distracted and they don't they're not interested in doing the knowledge to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
interested in it, right? Um, and there is, youth and younger artists that are. I've met them.
Yeah.
Um, but because hip hop has evolved from, you know, one borough to across the world, there's too many hands in the pot. There's too many minds controlling it. And people think that they know what hip hop is, but they don't.
Right. When it becomes difficult to make statements about what hip hop is or isn't because it's such a wide umbrella at this point, you know,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
at least in a lot of people's minds it is. In other people's minds, it's a, well, that's not actually hip hop. Hip hop is this thing over here, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, some of these questions. That's another reason I ask these things. Like, how about this? Do you think hip hop has a political lean? Does it lean toward either side of the spectrum? That's one I've been fucking with people with, just because like that's a tough one to answer, right? There's a lot of I don't know, capitalism portrayed in a lot of mainstream hip hop. There's a lot of certainly gun rights and like there, there's some right wing things, but there's also a lot of community presence and focus on building community and supporting one another as that community, right? Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. What do you think? Does hip hop lean either way politically?
I think when it comes to, I'm not a super, I would say that I'm not constantly watching politics,
Hmm.
um, because I know and understand that their culture is, again, going back to devilishment. These people have alliances and allegiances to something that people do not see with the physical and mental eye. And that's because these people move in the shadows. You know what I'm saying? So those people who have alliances and oaths in those certain ciphers,
Yeah,
they are all part of the same motherfucking bird, whether it's right or left wing. The
heard
thing
that
that
saying before. Yeah, yeah.
the thing about, I already know and understand that. So
I I gotta make the argument though that like one of these sides wants to fucking tell people what to do, and the other side is like, yo, let everybody live whatever they want to do. Like
but
there are definitely
okay,
differences between right and left politically. Like it's tough for
or
me
is
to
that
just sit and be like, okay, yeah, they're all the same.
or is that
I
the
don't actually
illusion though?
believe that.
Or is that the illusion though, right? Because when you study other sciences, bro, and I don't want to mention their names on here, you know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
when you study other sciences of these other shadows, you know what I'm saying? This is a part of the deception. The You think that, do we really think that people have freedom of choice here? Do we really think that people have freedom of speech, even in Canada?
I mean,
Really ask yourself that. Really ask yourself that. And I could show and prove how there is not. And so, in America, I mean, shit, man, it's a part of the First Amendment. However,
they're
if
walking
that
all
was the
over that whole constitution right now.
after, look, man, if that was the case, then Malcolm X wouldn't have got assassinated.
Right.
Martin wouldn't have got assassinated.
Yeah.
Kennedy wouldn't have got assassinated, for fuck's sakes. Right? Here's the thing. I mean, look how many actors and artists that just end up poof,
Right.
right? So, we have to ask ourselves, right? Is that Does that really exist? Or is that what you're led to believe? Because in the end, whether you're left or you're right, it's all bullshit. And until people wake up from that, it look, man, it doesn't matter. Cause look at hip hop. Hip hop was a way for it. It was the expression of what was going on in these brothers and sisters neighborhoods, right?
Right.
It was
Yeah.
a way for them to express in a positive way. That's why, especially when all of the rap from the late 80s to the 90s, even like, the 70s, it was all positive, bro. It was
Yeah.
all positive. And when you had niggas like Nixon and all of these fucking,
I mean, there were some guys with some negative. Cool
of
G
course there
rap wasn't
was.
all
Of course.
positive
Come
in
on. Come on.
1989,
Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we know. We know. But it was still intelligent the way that it came out. You see
Sure.
what I'm saying? Like
When it was
Cool G,
artful. Yeah.
it
It
was
was artful.
very,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but then you start to really see things and you're like, yo, was those dudes agents? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who
Were
knows,
those
right?
guys? Because look, man, we
I've
are
had this
dealing.
conversation. People have told me before NWA was,
You just pulled that out of my mind, bro. That's so crazy you said that.
I mean, the internet's been discussing that for a while. Uh, actually, I had this conversation at a cipher where we used to go sit around and read from the Gospel of Hip Hop and discuss it.
Okay.
And, so it was talking about how hip hop is this positive force and it's been corrupted by the mainstream evils or whatever. And,
Yeah.
one of the guys that was in this circle, kind of brought up the like, yeah, and I remember when NWA hit Edmonton, he was saying, because this was in Edmonton, and he said like, suddenly you were just seeing people fall into these corrupt tendencies or whatever because that was what was being promoted on the airwaves to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what to believe, but I mean, they also wrote "fuck the police," right? So to me, that was just guys who were angry and talking about their actual reality, and
Well,
it
here's
got
the
pushed to people who weren't living that reality, and then that negativity increased, maybe, or whatever. But
and I agree with you on that. I think that, in the beginning, it probably was very organic and it was very real, right? And I know, well, I'll rephrase that from saying I know because I wasn't there.
sure.
However, what I'll say is that, um, based on, listening to other people, they were actually living that life, right?
Yeah.
And they were telling the story of people that they were around. So I think that, in the beginning, it was definitely organic. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and claim that NWA was agents. I don't know
Well,
that.
and this is the thing is I can't say for 100% sure
Yeah.
they weren't, unless you're Dr. Dre or Ice Cube or Eazy or whatever, one of the members of NWA. You're never really gonna know whether or not they
No,
were told to say those things by some shady agency or whatever. Could
straight
be.
up. Straight up,
The
bro.
whole like prison industrial complex, being
Yep.
invested into record labels, that's real.
Yep.
You
That's
know,
real. This is
so
real. This is
but
real. And
it
people
to me
got
it kind of
threatened.
becomes a chicken or the egg thing, though, right? Like these motherfuckers want to make money any way they can, and I think they might have just kind of seen that was a way that they could do it and jumped on it. And I'm saying like the guys that are buying into the industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, and buying these labels and stuff. Like I think they're just greedy motherfuckers who are out there to make that buck no matter who they're fucking over. And so they might have just seen like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll promote this music to everybody and keep the jails full. Uh, I don't know,
Well,
man.
you gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta, you gotta look. I mean, let's look at the facts though, right? The facts are this. It was okay when it was in the hoods of black neighborhoods, right?
Right.
But as soon as it expanded into the white suburbia, it was
Yeah.
a problem,
Right.
right? Two Life Crew, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And you get Tipper Gore suing them or whatever. Fucking
yes, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So it that is actual factual. And
Yeah.
here's the thing is that they know the they know those elites, they know the magnetism of hip hop music, right?
Hmm.
They know how attractive it is,
Yeah.
right? You think the whole sagging your pants thing? Man, I used to sag my pants until I found out that means that you're available in prison.
I've
I
heard
don't
that
do,
too. Yeah,
you know what
I
I'm
don't know
saying?
one way or the other. See, but I've also heard, oh, people used to do that so that you could drop one pair of pants and have another one on underneath it, so you change your description or some shit. Like,
That
I
I'm
don't
sure
know,
that
man.
look,
I don't know.
I'm sure that's true too. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's true too. However, however, the whole over hypersexuality
yeah.
of and the demasculating, and I'm telling you, it's going back to what I said earlier, the bucking, right?
Mm,
This is what they do. You
sure.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
It's no different from that to getting bucked in jail to getting
Right.
bucked in the industry.
Well, and
It's
even that
just,
they allow that to happen in jails, right? Like, most rapes in society happen in prisons. It's fucked, man. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like,
And they just
and
act like they couldn't stop it if they wanted to. Like, no, I'm pretty sure you can keep that from happening. You got everybody
yeah,
locked down and shit. Like,
I
they
mean,
definitely are turning the blind eye to it, and they
oh
let it be the
yeah,
deterrent. You know,
oh
people don't want to go to
yeah.
jail because that's what happens in jail. So,
Oh yeah, man. I mean,
yeah,
and that's you know, obviously for a man to lose his manhood, and that's what you're seeing with all of these artists right now, man. Like you see all of this shit coming out, right? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Whether Diddy comes home or not, you're seeing that this shit was going on,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We know what's going on, right? We know what's going on. I've met people who have, you know, been in situations, right?
sure,
It's
sure,
going on, right? It's been going on, you know? And so you, politics have a huge influence on rap music, I would say. I'm
yeah,
not gonna say hip hop, I'm gonna say rap music.
sure. Okay, yeah, that's a good distinction to make.
Yeah, because rap music, I mean, rap is something we do. However, hip hop is something we
Something we
live,
live. Yeah,
and you know that hip hop is not that. It ain't that shit that you see going on in fucking Hollywood
yeah,
or anywhere else around the fucking world. You know what I mean? And that's why you know you get underground cats that are gonna stay underground, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because and they ain't gonna see mainstream unless they wanna, you know, bend
As
over.
something that's been tripping me out lately is that, like, it's become like so popular to just listen to what's popular. You know,
Huh,
so many
yeah,
people don't want to listen to it if it doesn't have X amount of plays on it, or if it's
yeah.
not, you know,
They trained us to
what's
be like
being
that.
promoted to them, right?
Yeah,
It's tough getting anybody to listen to Atzik because they look at the list of names on there. You know, people tell me like, "Oh, I like a track list so that I can see who's on there." Okay, I'll give you the track list. And they look at the track list and they don't recognize any names, so they're not listening to it. Well, for fuck's sake, man, like, these guys are dope. This is
yeah,
what hip hop really is, you know.
yeah,
But they just want to listen to a Drake playlist, man. A lot of the time, it's
yeah.
yeah,
And we gonna change that, bro. Like honestly, man, like I already know that you know, I stand on my square when it comes to my skill, right?
mm,
And there's a few other brothers like Bamboo Twigs and Black Messiah, and those are my brothers from Montreal.
okay.
Um
Those are new names.
and,
I'll have to tap in, check that out.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you know, it's about to be the diamond era. And there is a shift happening, bro. There's a shift happening. And you know, I'm grateful that I'm a part of this shift because I know my look, man, I stand on it, bro. I'm the best MC in the West, bro. You know what I mean?
hey,
I stand on it, bro. You know what I mean?
I always say
Um,
every MC should feel like they're the best, and if they don't, they should go back to the notebook. You know, go write more till you feel like you are, right? Because if you don't feel yourself, who's gonna?
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when it comes to this, like and you know, hip hop has no age, man. You know what I mean? So for anybody's listening, like, don't
Mm.
let them think, like, don't let them tell you, oh, you got, you washed up, you're too old, it's a young man's game and all this shit.
That's a
Nah, man.
question I ask a lot of people, man. Is hip hop a young man's game?
Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
mean, look, hip hop is not, because hip hop is for everybody. How
exactly.
can it be a young man's game? You know
And
what I
at this
mean?
point, there's people who grew up living it. So
You
now they're
know,
50, 60 years old and they're still hip hop,
you,
Whether,
you know what I'm and listen, like, and that's the thing too, right? Is like my demographic is it's kind of like both. It's like I get the 20-year-olds,
mm,
right? But I also get the 35 and up. You know what I'm saying?
hey,
And the
I,
50 and up, because
I,
when they listen,
yeah,
it's like, wow, like this makes me feel like I'm listening to uh I've had people say, like, some like my Born album, for example. They're like, this shit reminds me of Illmatic. You know what I mean? I don't think
mm,
it's like Illmatic at all, but people are like, it just gives them that nostalgic feeling of like, oh, this feels like Illmatic. And I'm like, okay, whatever, right? That's peace. I take the compliment. You know what I mean?
mm,
I've had people, think they like, oh man, your squad reminds me of Wu-Tang. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's probably because of the knowledge rap. But
sure.
it's it's like,
Did Wu
um
Tang play a big part in spreading that though? Like I kind of
for
touched,
sure,
tried to ask it earlier or whatever about
for
like,
sure, for
yeah,
sure, for
okay,
sure, for sure, for sure. I mean, at that time, yes,
would
I
have
would
been a
say
lot of
so.
people's introduction, right? Like,
I would say so.
yeah,
I would say so. And some, there's been riff about that kind of in the nation, right? Because this nation is not rap music. You know what I'm saying? It's not
right.
hip hop.
It's not hip
You
hop
know,
based.
it's
Yeah,
not hip hop, man. It's not hip hop based, right? Like, this is a
yeah,
culture to, this is a nation. You know what I'm saying? It's a
mm,
nation, right? So, um, it just happened that the nation is, and the teachings of the nation are so magnetic that those rappers that we grew up listening to in the 90s, those MCs, whether it was in the East or the West or the South, right?
yeah,
It was heavily influenced. They were heavily influenced by the gods and earths. And some of those brothers got knowledge itself and still live it out. And some of them got knowledge, but then didn't continue to live it out. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And that's what happens, right? But yeah, man, that whole golden era, you know what I mean? Look, man, everything, bro. The b-boy stance, that's how gods used to stand in the cipher. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
A cipher was when the gods would stand in a circle and they'd be building on the block. That's what the cipher came from. The cipher is a circle that consists of 360 degrees,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Or a cipher is a person, place, or thing, right? So, these terms that you hear, right? Even the like, yeah, you had the D-boys rocking the jewelry too, right? The big medallions, but that was the gods did that shit. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
Right? So a lot of these things, man, they'll say some say the fifth element is fashion, but the fifth element is knowledge itself, man. And anybody who knows hip hop, that's what it is. It's knowledge itself, right?
I've
You know what I
always
mean?
disliked the fashion being considered an element to hip hop. I mean, I know that it's not for me to decide. I'm a guest in this culture, and I'm not here to tell anybody what is or isn't hip hop ultimately. But
Why do you say you're a guest? Because you're white?
partly because I'm white, but partly also because I'm like from small town Alberta. Like um, I
Man, that don't
really
matter, bro. That don't fucking matter.
I
That don't
really
fucking
have
matter.
have kind of read my way into knowledge of this culture more so than I mean, and of course I've done shows and been in ciphers and like I consider myself an MC, a real MC that can do what an MC does. Um,
Okay.
so I also consider myself hip hop, but for me to be a host of a talk show like this and then sit back and say hip hop should be this or hip hop should be that, it feels like an overstep. If it's not for me to say. It's I don't know if it's for any one person to say,
Yeah.
honestly, whether me or you or anybody else. Um, so sometimes I got to check myself with my opinions on hip hop and saying, that's not hip hop. That's some whack shit because eh, that's my
Well,
opinion.
yeah. I would say, destroy that pin in your mind about being white and being a guest. Cause
Mm.
Hip hop is for everybody, bro. Like that's the thing. It's not about white or black. It's not about black or white.
Well, and
You know what I
the
mean?
gospel
It's
definitely taught me that. The gospel of hip hop talks about how, well, they consider Martin Luther King to be a prophet of hip hop, that he predicted the rise of this nation of hip hop with his dream speech. He talked about, I forget the order of the, from the mountains of New York to the, and he goes through a list of places, and KRS-One in that book says, like, this was actually the spread of hip hop. If you follow the names of the places he's talking about, that's how hip hop spread. It went from New York to the West Coast to Atlanta, and so he teaches that King was a prophet who predicted the rise of this. Well, and the entire dream speech about, I dream of a nation where people, are where people are judged on their merit. I think I'm probably
uh-huh.
butchering one of the greatest speeches of all time, but he talks about people being judged on their merit, not their skin color, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's, you translate that to hip hop. If you're dope in the cipher, they're gonna respect you.
Straight up.
If you learn to break dance and you go spin on your head in a breakdance cipher in China, they're going to respect you, whether you can speak that same language with them or not. It really is
Straight
something
up.
that can transcend, and, practitioners respect each other within it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the unison, it's unifying the seeds, as we say, like unifying the seeds, and on our flag, we have a 8-pointed star on a flag representing the sun, and the half of the star, like I want to say, like, so on each beam of light going each way, you know what I mean? Half of it is black and half of it is gold. And the gold
Mm.
represents the brown and the yellow. You see what I'm saying? Coming together, right? So unifying the seeds. That's how I see, hip hop it was a way to unify the seeds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
together for one common cause.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's beautiful because, different nations have tried it in different ways or whatever. With America kind of wants everybody to conform and become an American, but with hip hop, you actually have, there's First Nation hip hop artists who incorporate their traditional sounds and their traditional
Uh-huh.
dances into it, and
Uh-huh.
that's from every different corner of the globe, right? Well, I guess not corner of the globe, but every different part of the globe. Um,
Yeah.
you know, can bring their culture to it, and be welcomed into it, and still be hip hop, right? To
Yeah.
me, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I think, like you said, like going back, man, like as long as you pay homage, man, like just pay homage, right? And just remember, like,
Yeah.
just don't be a culture vulture, man. Don't just come in here and because that what Guilty Black would tell me back in the day is that, yo, you had to get vouched for before you could even grab the mic. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like
right.
some places you couldn't just grab the mic. Yo, niggas had to know you and know if you were nice. It's just
Yeah.
like going to someone's neighborhood. You don't go to someone's neighborhood if you don't know them, if know anybody in that neighborhood, right?
How the
Um,
times have changed. Now anybody who pays the promoter can get on the bill, right?
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Disgusting, bro.
Yeah. Pay to play
Promoters,
shit.
promoters getting rappers to sell tickets. It's
Yeah.
fucking ridiculous, man.
I agree, man. Yeah.
It's pimpage, bro.
Yeah. Um, Here, let me ask you two more of these how important questions, and then we'll
Okay.
we'll we'll wrap this thing up. I feel like we could talk forever here. It's
Yeah,
been
man.
a pleasure building with you, man, and just chopping
Absolutely.
this up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, how important is having a mentor in the game?
I would definitely say that if I would say the safest bet is to have somebody who can mentor you, who can lead you in the right direction. And the reason why I say the safest bet is because there's a lot of sharks out there. There's a lot of snakes of the grafted type out there. A lot of weak and wicked people who want to take advantage of your talent.
Those promoters we were just talking about, yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't have somebody that has had some type of skin in the game, or if you don't have a serious army behind you, and I mean that's even that can be detrimental too, um, because you have so many people to think about, and any one of those motherfuckers could go rogue on you.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, you're always stronger in numbers. So I would say that having a mentor like Guilty Black has been my mentor. Um, you know, he's watched me develop. And just to let everybody know, right, is that like I write everything in my mind. I don't write on a pen, or I don't use a pen or a pad. I don't use my phone. I write everything in my mind. I
See, this
cap
is the stuff I
all my
normally
music.
talk about on Fly in Formation. How guys put bars together, and do you record yourself, or do you go into studio to record?
No, I go in the studio and record it.
Okay.
No, I don't. The only recordings I need is my third eye. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's all there, right? Um, and
So
that's because I got glaucoma. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn how to do this because I started to go blind in one of my eyes.
do you
You know what
do
I'm saying?
like they say Jay-Z does, where he can come up with an entire verse in his head and memorize it actually, or are you just
Yeah.
freestyling in the booth?
No, I don't
Okay.
freestyle in the booth.
Okay. Yeah.
The whole project that you heard, that's all me making it walk and talk. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to an appointment. I'm working on the verse. You know what I mean? Got my headphones in. I'm working on the verse, right? And that's why I made it so easy for me to really cap 120 on my mind, because I already did that. I already
Used to
do that with my
memorization.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That makes
So
sense, man.
but yeah, he watched me. Um, he's been my brother for like, 15 years, right?
Mm.
And that's Tug_Nova on Instagram. And you know, yeah, he's definitely been my mentor when it comes to this to the music, but also in life, for sure.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, last one of these. About how important is it to show vulnerability in your music? This one's totally personal preference, really. Different artists will answer this one different ways.
I think it depends on the artist that you are.
Yeah.
Um,
How about for you personally?
vulnerability vulnerability is great in a safe space.
Yeah. Which
Um,
releasing music isn't necessarily, right?
not always.
Yeah.
Not always. But there's levels of vulnerability,
Yeah.
and I would probably I would probably maybe lean it towards more of authenticity
Hmm.
than so much vulnerability.
Sure.
Authenticity, I think, would be the word. Um, how important is it to be authentic in your music? I mean, really, it's up to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
there's plenty
mean,
of inauthentic artists that are out there selling millions of albums, right? So depends what you're trying to do. And yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, yeah, it just depends on what you're trying to do. If you like, yo, like, look, man, I know that I'm whack, but people love my shit. I'm gonna just do it. I mean, fuck, I can't knock you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I ain't gonna knock you,
Get the
right?
bag.
Yeah, if you
Better
get
than
in the bag,
struggling,
get the
right?
bag.
Yeah.
If you get in the bag, however, right? Um, you know, authenticity is important, right?
Yeah.
But all because a brother or sister be in the streets heavy doesn't mean you need to go and talk about that shit on wax, because you're not really thinking.
Yeah. They'll
because
get
there
you
is
locked up these days too, man. They're
exactly, you know what
charging
I'm
people
saying?
with that shit. Stuff they've said
Exactly.
on records.
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
it's 1000% real. The hip hop police is real. You
yeah.
know, Gang Squad is real. The feds is real,
I read a
right?
book called Notorious COP, where it's a guy who used to work for the NYPD, and he talks about the fucking big old binder that they had, you know,
Yeah.
cases
He
on
was
every different rapper and shit. I forget what his name was, like Dennis
he
Poole or
started
some shit. Yeah,
so that if I'm not no, I won't say I'm not mistaken, but there is a person, he was an NYPD officer, and then he retired, and then I think that they he was supposed to do security for Diddy,
yeah,
but then the NYPD wanted him to the the hip hop police
right.
department. And I think that he was down with it for in the beginning, but then he switched over and became an attorney to fight against it. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's the same person.
I
Because
feel
I
like it is. That sounds very familiar to me. I might have messed up his name. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to Google it. But
Yeah.
the book is Notorious COP for sure. It's been over a decade since I read it, but he
Uh-huh.
did have involvement with the Tupac murder and the Biggie murder. He was kind of a whistleblower about those
Mm.
things and has been on the scene saying that there was dirty shit happening there with the police involved, the LAPD involved.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah,
That's oh man. I mean, when you talk about how political this shit really gets, I think that um we only can speculate, based off of what gets shown to us, unless you dealing with people that are there firsthand. But like I said, right? The 10%, you know what I mean? They tell lies, right? And they make things appear to be what they are not. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So
yeah,
then that's the whole aspect of television and social media, right? It's an illusion. You know what I mean? It's an illusion, you know? And
I just googled it. His name was Russell Poole.
Russell
Russell
Poole.
Poole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
LAPD from 81 to 99.
Oh, okay. He was on the LA side. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This
Yeah.
guy, I think I was talking. This was in the NYPD.
Okay.
Um. Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, you know, look at the shit now that's coming out about that whole situation, and I'm sure that ain't even really it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? With Keefy D and
Right.
all of that stuff, bro. I don't even think that's. I don't even. I bet you that's not even the whole scoop,
I
right?
mean, it sounds like a fall guy to me. I think, yeah, there were some dirty cops in there. I doubt that it was just one guy doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. All right, man. Well, we've been talking for a real long time. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, bro. I
What?
really appreciate you reaching out and allowing me to come on your platform and share my wisdom with everybody and
You did
you
mention
know.
there's more music coming, though. I know some artists hate it when they have one project out and somebody asks them, when's the next one? It's like,
Oh no, I
motherfucker,
don't
let
hate
me
that, bro.
promote my last
Yeah,
one
yeah,
for a
yeah.
while, But you did mention there's more music coming. Should people be watching out in the near future, or what's that
Yeah,
looking like?
absolutely. So, for anybody who's on right now, you could check out I actually have three projects out. So I have The King's Order, I have Born, right, which was produced with Kuza Nine Star, and then I have the Supreme Order, which was produced by Curb the Kid. Curb the Kid is a phenomenal producer. What I mean, if y'all looking for beats, definitely holler at him.
Is that the dude on
Um,
Instagram who makes all those funny videos? Curb?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Curb, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's a funny guy.
He's funny as
He's a,
hell. He's great with content, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, you've
and
worked with him. Is he Vancouver based? I didn't
yep,
know where he's
yep.
from. Okay.
Yep, he's from Vancouver. I got another project coming out in the next, probably in the summertime, called Allah is Illustrious, and that album is gonna be like is more like knowledge, more based in the nation. A lot of terminology and some of the artists that I have on that project. Um, and then I got another project I'm working on right now called HGIC. head god in charge with
Hmm.
my young brother King Wise, aka Wise Kingdom. Um, and yeah, man, I got a lot of shit in the chamber, but you know, the Allah's Illustrious album is gonna come out, and yeah, man, like I said, you know, you can tap in with us. One Order Radio, 6 o'clock Blitz, CJSF 90.1 FM. We're every Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
What type of
Um,
stuff are you playing on there? Is it like classic hip hop mixed with new stuff? You kind of said a
oh
bit of
man,
everything, right?
yeah, bro. Like honestly, yeah, like we dropped the old, we got the new. We throwing some reggae in there every once in a while.
But are you playing Canadians though, or are you just meeting the
Yeah,
33% Canadian
I mean,
content?
look, I ain't gonna say that I'm doing it like you. I will say that, but we do play Canadian hip hop.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah,
dope.
for sure,
All right.
for sure.
Is that archived anywhere online? Like, can people just tap in and listen to those episodes, or they
Yeah,
gotta
you can
be
go to this. You can go to the CJSF.ca website,
nice?
and then go to programs, and then go to the calendar on Wednesdays, and scroll down. You'll see One Order,
Okay.
6 o'clock Blitz. Yep.
So, as a closing question, I always ask people, can you describe your local hip hop scene? What's the Vancouver scene like? I haven't talked to many guys from Vancouver. I've talked to a couple, but
What is it like? Oh,
yeah.
it's
Just
it's great.
describe the scene any way you want to, man.
It's great because One Order's in the building, man, and we making it great, bro.
Hey,
That's what I'm gonna say. You know what I mean? That's what I'm gonna say. I will
that's
shout
fair.
out Icon Hip Hop. Icon is doing, you know, they have ciphers and they're doing something. They're adding on to the culture. So I definitely give them shout outs. You know what I mean? I give them props. You know what I mean? Icon Hip Hop. You know, if you ever come to Vancouver, you know, look up or you know even just follow Icon Hip Hop on Instagram and you see what they're doing.
Okay.
It's pretty dope. You know what I mean? So shout out to Icon. You know, they're striving to keep the culture alive. And
They throw events and stuff like that. That's
Yep,
okay.
yep.
Yeah,
They
nice.
they host a weekly cipher, and
Oh,
then
nice.
they also do like bigger events where they got Palmer Square coming in this week. Yeah, this week.
Okay.
Um, they've had a lot of like different names and stuff and perform and yeah, it's peace. Most definitely,
Where
it's
man?
peace.
Any shows or gigs we can tell people to look out for coming up? Buy tickets for?
Well, if you are in Vancouver, we're gonna be doing Black Music Month Festival, June 27th, 29th. And I think that Davies is coming here, and I think we're gonna be on that bill too. But we'll stay posted for that. But yeah, we got Black Music Month Festival coming up, and I'm sure that I'm sure we'll be coming to Alberta soon, and building with y'all and traveling
Hell yeah.
across the province, so or the country, I should say.
Dope. Looking
Yeah,
forward
man.
to it, man. If you touch down in Lethbridge, let me know. Or actually, if you need connects in Calgary or Edmonton, like I know people who throw shows in both those cities. So and like throw good hip hop shows actually in both those cities. So yeah,
Yeah.
let me know.
Okay.
I can be the link, man.
Yeah. I mean, let's exchange phone numbers, bro, and we definitely can build. You know what I mean? I'm sure
Hell
you
yeah.
got more questions, and but like,
Heck,
yeah,
we
let's just
honestly
build.
didn't even skim the surface of all the questions I normally ask people, but we talked
Yeah.
about so much other stuff that this was a beautiful discussion. I appreciate your time doing it, man.
Yeah, man. Doobyis, I appreciate you, bro. Much love.
Hell yeah. Peace.
All right, brother. Peace.
All right, a super extended edition of Fly in Formation. He was fun to talk to, and I had lots of questions about what it really means to be a 5%er, because you can only gather so much from listening to Wu-Tang songs and reading Wu-Tang books and whatnot. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed that or found some parts of it that were entertaining or educational for you. Coming up, we got all sorts of interviews. I'm actually booked into June now, but we'll just show you until the end of May. So I'm talking with Gritfall and Roshan on May 6th. That'll be the 100th episode of this show. It's been a long road, but I've talked to both of those guys in those 100 episodes just individually, so it'll be fun to talk to them together about their new project. May 13th, talking to Helen back. May 20th, I talked to Quake Matthews. May 27th, I talked to Stephen Hero. And then through June, I'm talking to Edmonton-based artists No Sir and Jimmy Burnett on the 3rd. On the 10th, I'm talking to Winnipeg-based artist Max Wins. 17th, we're out in Montreal talking. Well, I'm not going to Montreal, but the Zoom call will go to Montreal to talk to Slick Jack. That's June 17th. And then in Saskatoon, I'm talking to Harvey Dent, two-man group of Curls and Ev Thompson, who've been doing their thing for a long time and get play on ATSIC. Keep tapping in after the smoke is clear is archived over at mixcloud.com/Doobyis, and of course Doobyis.com is the hub for everything that I can do. You can just find it all there. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Peace.